Southern California, yeah.
Born and raised that DNA, laughing about what we say. We hit you with that wordplay.
4053.
What episode are we on? D, they feeling like baby zombies, all dressed in Abercrombie.
SoCal DNA coming in live. 8 o'clock on Wednesday night. COVID got you sitting inside. Why not sit one and free your mind?
Cheap thrills, popping pills, stacking cash, spending fast.
Listen to all of those laws as Arjun act like he's surprised.
Man, every time I listen to it, that slur just keeps coming more and more prominent on my end. I'm a little frustrated with myself.
Doesn't it sound good though? Like I think last time I was telling our audience, it sounds like you got some molasses in your mouth.
King of the South.
King of the South, man. Shout out to Tip.
Yeah.
I never really took the time to watch his show, T.I. and Tiny, but I hope he's doing well.
Dude, I'm telling you, you gotta check out that show on Netflix, man. Rhythm and Flow. Rhythm and Flow. Right? It's solid, man. I like it. I think you'd enjoy it. Snoop's on it.
Let's talk about Snoop for a bit, man.
Sure.
I'll be honest with you, and this may be blasphemous, this may be a hot take to start off the pod with, but it is SoCal DNA coming in live on a Saturday night, nearly 10:30 p.m. So I'm coming with a hot take here. I think Snoop is overrated.
No, but go ahead.
I know. So here's my take, man. I think he's charismatic for sure. He is definitely one of the most recognizable rappers in the world.
Mm-hmm.
For decades, he was, I wouldn't say he was on top of the rap game, but he was relevant. He was somebody that a lot of the younger rappers and older rappers both wanted to do features with or songs with or do something with. But as a rapper, I never really thought that he was my favorite. Like I never found him to be, like, new Snoop track coming out, can't wait to check it out.
He wasn't your dude?
He wasn't really my guy, and even though he was a local guy, right? Like he went to Long Beach and everything.
Exactly.
I never really felt like I liked his rap more than an Ice Cube, more than a Tupac, more than an Eazy-E. I could always name other West Coast rappers that I liked more, just based on their bars, based on their talent. Snoop was good though, don't get me wrong. Like he has his own flavor, very distinct way of rapping. But I don't know, man. Just for me, I never felt like Snoop was that. You can beg to differ.
Yeah,
man.
I mean, he set himself apart with a certain genre. I mean, this is what surprises me. You like Push so much. What's wrong with the whole drug culture sort of rap, right? And Snoop was one of those. He represents Long Beach, and for a long time he was the king of LA, right? Until he handed the torch down. He repped a different style of gangster rap, and to me, Snoop is timeless for what he did. Like when you hear a Snoop song, it's Snoop. You can't say that for a lot of rappers nowadays that are super prominent. There are some, right? Like Jay or, what have you. But Snoop he's up there. I get that you didn't like him. Maybe. Or it wasn't a preference. He wasn't my preference, but...
I didn't mind him. Like, trust me, like, it's not like I hated him for any reason.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed some of his songs, but I felt like the reason why he was so popular was not so much because of his rapping ability, but because I think he's a really personable person. Like he's somebody that other rappers in the hip-hop community, other notable figures in the world, even in the business world, they want to be around him because of his energy, his charisma, his ability to connect with people and just talk with people. In some respects, that's becoming a bit of a lost art in modern day hip-hop culture, I think.
What, the ability to relate?
The ability to kind of expand yourself and really be in touch with all different kinds of people, kind of cross barriers, get into the movie world and whatnot. I felt like nowadays it almost happens, through these 360 deals, right? Like you sign a deal with your recording label, they have the rights to everything you do, but then they also market you in different ways. They put you in commercials and whatnot, but it's more like given to you. It's more like, you have to do these things. But before, I felt like, Ice Cube, for instance, Snoop, even Dr. Dre, they had to be more entrepreneurial. They had to really find lanes that wasn't just hip hop and branch out to different audiences, make a better name out of themselves, really build their brands. And it took a certain skill for that. It took a certain, command of interpersonal relationships and understanding how to cater to different audiences, but still retain what makes you still retain your fan base. And that's why I give plenty of respect to Snoop for doing that. I mean, he's been on reality TV, he's hosted game shows, he does production, he's done a lot of everything, and he's really good at interviews too. Every time he's on Conan or Colbert or whatever, the videos get millions of views. So I give him a lot of props, but more so because of his personality and his ability to sell himself and pitch himself to the world than his actual rap. And case in point, if I were to ask you, is Snoop Dogg in your top 10 all-time favorite rappers, you'd probably say no.
Personality-wise, he's up there. But when we're talking pure
sure.
song-wise...
Yeah, songs, bars.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying. Sure.
But no diss against Snoop. I mean, look, he is a legend for sure. Without Snoop, I think West Coast rap wouldn't be the same. Obviously, he had collaborations with Dr. Dre. Dr. Dre helped him a lot with a lot of production. And also, like, there's all these things about who writes for who, right? I mean, I guess back in the day, it was not really known as much as far as like the ghostwriters were concerned, right? Like, you knew that some people were ghostwriting for others. Like Ice Cube apparently wrote all the lyrics for Eazy-E, even for Dr. Dre when they were NWA together. Like, this was kind of commonplace, but it wasn't that big of a deal. Now it seems like, the media scrutiny is really on you if they find out that you don't write your own shit, especially in the rap game, right? Like when it was revealed that Drake's friend Quentin Miller was writing for him for at least a couple of tracks, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that became a big deal because all of a sudden Drake kind of felt like he was exposed, and the media was really attacking him on that. Like, oh, he doesn't write his own bars. Like, he's not the same level of MC as a Kendrick, right? Maybe he's not the same level of MC as a J. Cole. He's up there in terms of talent, and yeah, he's more successful in many ways, but can he really bar people up?
Oh, yeah, I think the whole thing of, lyricism really came to light in these past couple of years, and that authenticity that comes with it. Because I think, at least when it comes to Drake, even though he may not write all of his material, I'm pretty sure he's lived it, which brings some sense of authenticity to it. And regardless, he's a great performer. He has the swag, and if we type Snoop back in, maybe the same case with Snoop. Snoop had that personality. He had that aura that Drake has, where he's able to draw crowds regardless of the bars that he put together. Maybe Snoop's just a lyricist in his own right, and then Drake, to take it to the next level, used someone else to help him reach that, I guess, pedestal that he's on right now for the hip-hop game.
To be fair, and you're 100% right, but to be fair to Drake, actually, I don't think he deserves as much hate as he gets, especially with regards to ghostwriting.
Oh, yeah, dude. Well, I mean, he was fucking wheelchair Jimmy for her. How long, dude? Come on, dude. This guy finally got his legs. You gotta support him every now and then.
He finally got his legs. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. But even with the Quentin Miller stuff, what I heard was it was only a couple of tracks, and really, at least from the recent Pusha T versus Drake, beef that was going on, it was kind of revealed that Drake really was trying to help Quentin Miller. Like, Miller was working at Ralph's or Vaughn's or something, just bagging groceries, and he was like, all right, help me out with a couple of tracks here, put you on a little bit. And so it was really more of a case of Drake helping one of his friends by giving the friend an opportunity to write.
And I think so. I mean, it's a good thing. So long as, there was a little bit of trickle down regarding financials, I have no problem with it. Or as long as Drake keeps him on, part of the squad, then by all means, I have a feeling that Drake takes care of his people.
For sure.
With that amount of money, I'm pretty sure you keep your crew real close and very minimal, and I'm sure Quentin's part of it. So can't diss him too much on it, man. Like, dude, if we had that much money, I don't think we could write this we'd be writing the same shit over and over and over again. I don't blame him for having a writer, man. Sometimes you need a breath of fresh air, right? Like for schools or for things that we work on, it's like it's nice to get a fresh set of eyes on it. Because at least for my work, if I'm working on it, for a week, everything starts to blur in that I'm used to seeing it. Whereas that fresh set or that fresh voice will give you that little extra oomph that'll help you uncover some things that you may not have seen yourself.
I hear you. I'm actually a little bit different in that regard, especially when it comes to things that I think you can be creative in. Like, let's say writing, or let's say even production, like musical production. I feel like if you have a vision, and in this case, if I have a vision behind whatever I'm writing, whether it's an essay or a report, and even an email, whatever it could be, I have my own voice in it. I have my own kind of plan of attack, so to speak. And I try to stick to that. I'm okay with other people providing their opinion on it. Whether or not I subscribe to that opinion is a different matter entirely.
Of course.
Whether or not I heed any of that advice is something entirely different. But typically when it comes to creative outlets, like writing, I mentioned, drawing back in the day, musical production now, I tend to have a vision with these things. And I like sticking to it, even if I'm tired, even if I'm like, I got so many other things to do. In my heart of hearts, it's like, if I know that it came from me, if I know that at some point in my life I justified and I rationalized each of these words and these bars, then I can sleep comfortably. Then I know that, it's genuine article. I know what I'm doing here.
Genuine to you, it sounds more like pride to me.
It is.
Right?
No, I don't even disagree with you. It is pride. It is me not willing to let go of certain things.
The
maybe
control freak. The control freak. The A's coming out. His true colors.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm unabashedly admitting that when it comes to certain things,
sure.
My pride won't let me give it off and let somebody else take care of it, because I don't know if I can trust the integrity of the message. But I will have to say, I have to have a caveat for all of this. When it comes to collaborations that I know will be a collaboration from the jump, like anything that I do with the D, anything that I do with Don,
the short D.
The short D, that's right. Not the short bus D, long bus D. Short bus D is a different kind of D. But I will almost say that, with Don, there was a moment in time for one particular project that we're still, I guess, kind of working on. Yeah. Not really. We were working on it before, where I gave him a little bit too much instruction. I was a control freak in that moment. I was giving him too much criticism, and basically I was telling a bird to walk. Right? A bird needs to fly. A bird needs to soar. But I was telling the D to slow down, take a walk, take a larger step.
Like eagle, hawk, falcon, but bird. I got stuck with bird, man. Come on. I mean, at least say like the Larry Bird or something like that. Like the bird with the Y.
You're right. Let's upgrade you to a something else. Let's a pterodactyl. Okay?
Now I'm extinct.
Oh, but okay, not the intention that I wanted. You're right. I don't mean to make the D extinct. That would not be good. Let's call him
I had an age.
Condor.
Condor.
There you go.
Are those like the balding ones? Those are the balding ones.
Okay. Let's go with a hairy bird. What's a hairy bird? A blue jay. All right.
Blue jay.
Don is
You know what? I'll take that. Small, sweet, a little higher pitch. I'm all right with that.
A little higher pitch. And likes to live in Toronto.
Yeah. I like the cold, man. I sweat too much.
There you go. So, I should never tell a blue jay to walk. A blue jay needs to fly. A blue jay needs to soar. And so, for this particular project, which eventually will come out, I think it's on me now. Ball's in my court to write some lyrics. But I was telling Don to get out of his comfort zone too much. But not only his comfort zone, I was telling him to not be himself. I was telling him to basically change who he was. And after, bless his soul, I've told this story before on the podcast, but after probably 30, 40 takes, minutes and minutes of recording that I had to sit through and chop up and replay for my own, understanding to try to see where he was going, I realized, what, I was mistaken. I should never have told him to have more bass in his voice and talk like this and whatnot. It just didn't. It just was the wrong thing to do. And aside from that misstep on my behalf, I think I learned to let Don be Don. Let the D be the D, and whatever
Yeah.
comes to his mind, whatever
Unprotected.
unprotected, 100% raw, and let him be. And I think that usually comes with the best result. In recent tracks that we did and things that we're working on even today, Don has a very unique skill set. He's extremely creative, and I'm learning to not only just let go of things, but I'm learning to trust. And I think that's important when you're kind of a control freak. You want to be point guard in everything that you do. You have to really learn to trust other people to really have a cohesive group effort, to have that synergy. And I realize that, the more I trust on any collaborative project, whether it's a podcast or a song or whatever we do in the future, I think it generally results in good things. And of course, nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. Sometimes the shit I make is crap. I throw in too many samples. The beats are too basic. The drums are whack. You know what I mean? So all these things are true. But
Sure.
I think it is a working process, and it is also a work in progress. So shout out to Don. Shout out to Don for always being, the genuine article and bringing his A game to the table.
I do what I can. I do what I can.
Let me ask you this. I know we were talking about Snoop just now. Which of these rappers of today do you think has the best chance to be like the Snoop of the newer generation? To be
Wiz,
like that?
easily. It's Wiz. Oh, well, so you mean icon wise? Are you meaning like to represent the weed game? To represent like LA? Like what kind of Snoop are we talking about? Or just in general?
I guess I was thinking more icon wise, but I understand why you say Wiz. I agree with you on that one. I
Right.
think Wiz is closest to fitting the mold.
Yep.
Very successful rapper. I think he's still making some hits every now
Oh,
and
yeah.
then, and he's into all different kinds of weed ventures, I'm sure,
Mhm.
and he's recognized to be like that weed smoker guy. As a
Sure.
matter of fact, I think he even had some collaborative albums with Snoop.
Yep.
Like it was Snoop and Wiz doing some things. They might have been on tour as well.
Yep.
So I agree
believe
with you
it.
there.
But like,
But
all right. So beyond at least the weed, if we're looking just icon wise, I think Drake's already attained that and much larger. So if we tailor it back and think of more of a kind of West Coast forward sort of rap,
sure.
it's got to be K Dot.
Here's my thing, and again, this might be another hot take.
Sure.
I wonder if future generations will really look up to Kendrick like people kind of looked up to Uncle Snoop.
Mm.
Like
So
I
maybe
think it was a different. Yeah,
maybe not Kendrick then, because Kendrick has this very specific kind of style and message. Let's see.
but I could be wrong about that though. It's
Sure.
like I just don't know if Kendrick will be idolized in the same way that we idolize Tupac, we idolize Snoop, we idolize, like even
Yeah.
even back in the day for some LL Cool J from the East Coast,
Sure.
Biggie to some extent. Even like guys like 50 Cent and Cameron. Like a lot of people looked up to 50. A lot of people looked up to Cam,
Yeah.
Harlem World, all of that stuff. With Kendrick, I feel like he's such an alien of hip hop, and I mean that in the best way possible. Like he's such a beast
Mm-hmm.
that it's kind of in his own lane, and it's a lane that not many other people can really be in or try to be in.
Yeah, I mean the only ones that could compete with them are what? Cole.
Cole maybe on a bar for bar level,
Yeah.
but maybe not in a commercial success level.
Sure.
Because I've had this conversation with so many people, maybe with you as well. But so I went to a J. Cole concert with a friend of mine, like I think about 2 years ago.
Sure.
And prior to going to that, I actually didn't think as highly of J. Cole as I should have.
Sure.
J. Cole, of course, as you know, a really, really talented rapper, thoughtful rapper, insightful, talks about a lot of things that other rappers aren't willing to talk about or aren't capable of articulating to the same extent that he can.
Sure.
And it took me that concert to sit through all of his hits to realize, number one, he has a lot of hits for sure, and also to see him perform so well and take these breaks and kind of talk to the audience in between tracks, like, hey, like I know what you're going through, life is hard, blah blah blah, but look, I wasn't always up in these stages filling up the venues, filling up the audience with 20,000 plus. I was in these back rooms, I was in these clubs. It was hard for me, and I felt like he really understood how to connect to the people that were buying his music. that were, showing up at his concerts. And I respected that about him. And he's definitely a thinker. I like that he's a producer. I like that he's thoughtful and everything. So in terms of the mind, in terms of a poet, his poetic ability, his rapping ability, I would put him up there with Kendrick for sure. But why do you think J. Cole hasn't been as commercially successful and maybe as popular as a Kendrick Lamar? Is it really backing? Is it just the fact that Dr. Dre was behind Kendrick all the time?
It could be. And it could also be us like having the bias of being on the West Coast. Because where's Cole from? Midwest?
Well, isn't he? Yeah, I think so. Like North Carolina or something, right? Like let me look this up. J. Cole. You find I thought it was like North Carolina, right? Yeah,
North Carolina. Yeah, so he's an East Coast rapper.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure over there they're probably banging his stuff more. Same with Jay Z. So I think there's a little bit of a locational bias going on. Because I can't think of anyone else that could go bar for bar with K-Dot and commercial success. I mean, what commercial success? Because Dre's backed him, or he's produced that Black Panther album because he's near Hollywood, because he raps about black shit more than pretty much anyone right now in the game that we know of, at least mainstream.
By the way, your audio changed a few minutes ago.
Really?
Like you've become like really crackly and like low fidelity all of a sudden. I wonder if something like your mic isn't all the way in.
No, I haven't touched anything. It may be internet stuff going on.
Yeah, maybe. That's right. Okay. That's okay. I can roll with it. I can still hear you. Yeah, I mean, to your point, in terms of commercial success, really we think of Drake and Kendrick kind of in their own echelon, just in terms of commercial success, nothing else.
Sure.
But then when you get into the bar conversation, as you said, it becomes J. Cole and Kendrick, and we tend to put Drake down.
You could also add Eminem, but he's a little prior. You could add Logic in the mix nowadays to go bar for bar.
Yeah. Logic. I've heard a lot of songs from, not a lot, but I've heard a lot of his good songs, let's say, his hits. He is talented, for sure. And the thing about Logic is he has this type of appeal, probably because of his personal experiences and him being, half white, I think, half black. Don't quote me on that, but I think he's half white, half black. And I think that brings along a slew of experiences. And also, he's able to kind of use that to his advantage in terms of bridging the gap with different fans of different genres. Like a friend of mine who's not really into West Coast rap or hardcore hip hop or anything, doesn't even listen to much rap. He likes Logic. He thinks a lot of Logic songs are appealing, and it makes sense to him. Like he doesn't need to feel out of his comfort zone to listen to Logic comfortably, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So I respect that about Logic, but at the same time, do we really consider Logic to be up there in any capacity with the Kendrick? I say no. I say no.
Yeah, again, I think it's location preference, because Logic still sells out stadiums and stuff like that. He just doesn't have, I guess, the same marketing influence that Kendrick has, at least currently. And I'm trying to look. I'm like Googling around who can compare to Kendrick. Yeah.
Like I also wondered on like to make this more of a numerical comparison than just opinion. What do we consult? Like, what do we look for to kind of say, all right, you know what, this guy, to quantify this guy's commercial success, we look at, equivalent album sales? Would that be like a good metric?
Well, no, I just say hits. Hits nowadays. Okay. It doesn't even have to be album sales. It's basically how many times did you get your song streamed, played, or aired, right? In the digital age we live in now. So that's why Drake's definitely up there. Like, who's streamed the most on Spotify nowadays or Apple Music? Right?
Let's go.
I think that would be a good gauge.
Yeah. I'm gonna look that up right now. Top Spotify artists. We'll just kind of see. Oh, of course Drake is up there. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, interesting. So Spotify has a website here. Newsroom.spotify.
I didn't use rappers. So I got like Ed Sheeran on there. Here we go.
Yeah. I saw the picture. Macklemore.
That's 2013. There we go. 2019. Post Malone.
Post Malone, yeah, he's in there. He's a top spot with over 6.5 billion streams.
Yeah,
Wow.
man. And I like Post. I think he's he's still figuring out his identity. Because if you listen to his latest stuff, he's going a little more melodic, similar to the evolution of what Drake did until he reverted back and keeps jumping back and forth, what have you.
Right.
So I'm liking the trajectory that Post Malone has, and we'll touch base about that later, I'm sure.
For sure, for sure. And so after Post, they talk about Billie Eilish here. Makes sense. Different genre. Ariana Grande, interesting. Okay.
Solid vocals. I think she's the best female vocalist right now, at least in the pop genre and within that sort of age range you want to market your artist in. She's definitely up there.
Got you. By the way, interesting. I'm looking at this article right here on the newsroom, and they say people are clearly loving podcasts, tuning in the most to Spotify original, the Joe Budden podcast with Rory and Mel. Wow. So this podcast that I've been listening to a little bit on and off for the past two, they've been the number one for quite some time. That's pretty cool. Okay.
So I gotta say, right here, I think I found it. The one that would be compared to Kendrick in regards to impact, it's got to be Nicki Minaj.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. All right. Don't think bars. Think marketability and impact for people to want to listen to.
No, dude.
Different genre. Because she penetrates markets.
Same genre. Same genre.
No, but different style. Different style. Come on. Like, you're gonna put Nicki
look,
and
I actually appreciate Nicki Minaj a lot. So this is the bittersweet part of this argument, because I actually like Nicki a lot more than other female artists.
Sure.
That's not a popular opinion. A lot of people like Doja Cat. A lot of people like what's her face, Cardi B. But I'm actually more of a fan of Nicki because I've been listening to her for quite some time.
Sure.
Especially back when she featured on Monster on Kanye's album Dark Twisted Fantasy.
Monster.
Exactly. She had one of the best. Exactly. Like she was amazing, and her ability to kind of split her personality, right? Like she can go really hot, act all bubbly and cute, but then she can become a monster like the track. So I appreciate that. But in terms of like putting her up there with Kendrick, in terms of like impact and commercial success and all that, you got to explain that to me. Like in what way? In what way?
I think she just had she had loyal fans.
The Barbs. Yeah.
Right? And I think she basically was running the female hip-hop game for how many years? I can't even count. She would also sell out crowds. She had her own message, even though I would argue she made more hits than messages. I'm just trying to find someone that we could compare it to overall, and maybe this is why we think Kendrick is so talented. It's just he kind of stands in his own genre, or his own subset, his own group. But and I'm thinking also the way that hip hop right now it's evolving into something else. Right? There's other people that are coming up, like, remember, R.I.P., but XXX was making big moves. Lil Uzi Vert, is up there. Juice WRLD before R.I.P. again. Like this emo rap is starting to take full effect in conjunction with the trap sound, right? Because Future was up there for a while. I don't even know who's running the trap yet. Oh, Migos is up there right now.
Right.
Quavo,
Right.
So I think it's hard to. That's why I think Kendrick stands out so much too. It's a different game, and there's so many silos of hip hop right now that Kendrick runs his. There's no real comparison.
So are you basically saying that because Kendrick does the fundamental hip hop so well, it makes him basically have his own category, that you can't really compare him to a Future. You can't really compare him to a Triple XT or whatever. This.
That's why you could compare him to, like I said, Cole. You can compare him to Eminem. You can compare him to, again, a Logic. But then again, I think all these guys have their own right in saying they could each run their own fan bases, and I could see that happening. But they each respect each other's hustle and their bars.
You know, the closest thing I can think of in terms of, and of course you'd expect a 90s reference from me, but in terms of like a 90s corollary, a 90s analog to what we're talking about here, you remember De La Soul?
Yeah.
So De La Soul and the whole Daisy Chain movement, they were doing something very unique. While everybody else was all about hardcore hip hop, gangster rap, you know,
Mm-hmm.
fuck the police, all that kind of shit. De La was doing something much more peaceful, laid back, got some like hippy dippy, you know, vibes to it, but it worked because they were amazing MCs, great production, great beats, and they had their own swag and they were comfortable in that. They had the whole, you know, collaboration with Tribe Called Quest with Queen Latifah, the Jungle Brothers, like that whole genre slash niche of hip hop was very appealing and it worked. And I think what you're saying here is yes, you're always going to have these super high performing, you know, mainstream artists like a Drake,
Mm-hmm.
like a Kendrick, Eminem, but really it's hard to compare them to each other because you know they're all so good at what they do. They're all so good at what they do. And now
Mm-hmm.
hip hop is so kind of distributed where you have the emo rap, you have the trap rap going on, you have the insightful J. Cole style rap going on, and they're all very much the king of their own lanes, and they choose more or less to stay in their lanes
Mm-hmm.
with tremendous adulation and respect for everybody else, and appreciative of the fact that yes, Future may not be as lyrically gifted as a Kendrick, but Kendrick loves the fact that Future can bring that energy, bring that kind of emotion and vibe through going, yeah, yeah, you know, like whatever it is, just like a
Mm-hmm.
few words, few ad libs here and there. And maybe that is something that I need to be a little bit more cognizant of. Like as you know, I tend to be critical of newer rappers. I tend to be kind of brutal when it comes to judging the new era of hip hop. I wasn't too keen on accepting the Migos of the world. I wasn't too keen on accepting Triple XT and the Juice Worlds and all that. After repeated listens, I can see the appeal. I can understand why the younger generation would appreciate the energy, the sheer stage presence, the power, the rawness that comes from it. And maybe some of that is relatable to a lot of the youth. For me, I guess since hip hop to me was always about, you know, these very interesting characters
Mm-hmm.
that also had a ton of aggression with them. And that's biased for me, right?
Yep.
50 Cent. 50 Cent, there's not a whole lot of rappers doing gangster rap anymore for good reason. It simply doesn't sell, number one. First and foremost,
Sure.
gangster rap doesn't sell like it used to. But number two, it's really no longer that relevant. What's relevant now is the whole party culture. It's the whole, you know, it's not the shooter that should be feared. It's the
Mm-hmm.
person who got shot. It's not the drug dealer that should be respected and venerated. It's the person doing the drugs. It's the futures of the world. It's the
Yep.
triple XTs of the world. It's the stories of the ups and downs of drug life. Like you see the Weekend. I don't know if
Yep.
you heard, but the Weekend dropped the album recently, basically talking about, I guess, a breakup that he went through, like a very tough breakup that he had, and the whole album was pretty much about him dealing with it, like going through the drugs, going through the emotions, the ride, the experience. I actually thought he captured that well. I mean, I wasn't intending on listening to that whole album, but I pretty much did, and I realized, wow, he summed up all of the emotions, all of that rawness, that feeling that you would have in those situations in a very good manner, and accompanying with the music videos, he told his story very well. And I think that appeals to a lot of the youth. Like it's not just about having these intricate word plays and bars and having these complicated rhyme schemes like a Mos Def would give you or like a Black Thought would give you. No, it's not really about the hardcore lyricism anymore. It's about expressing yourself in all different forms and manner, right? It could just be a laid back beat, laid back melody where you just kind of croon along to it, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden that's a number one hit.
Yeah.
People can
So
love
again,
that. That's
I think
totally fine.
we've come
Yeah.
full circle and admitted it basically is, at least in today's rating scale, all about authenticity.
Yep. Yep.
Damn.
And speaking of authenticity, I don't think it gets more authentic than something that Don has been working on recently. That I
Yeah.
had the privilege of getting a preview of myself the other night. But
Yeah.
Don, why don't you go ahead and break down what you've been up to?
So I've been sleeping a lot. Trying to stay out of the heat. Unsuccessful. But then I was
Yeah.
like, all right, anything Arjun can do, I could probably do somewhat better.
Yes, that's
so
true.
I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put myself to the test.
Yeah.
I had some tough times in the past couple years back, actually, where I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna get into this. Never really worked out, and I had purchased myself some Ableton, which is pretty expensive software. Never
Don,
really.
can I just ask before you continue? I'm pretty sure I gave you FL Studio before, right?
It's very possible. I just remember it's like a little yellow or orange pepper.
Yeah. But okay, I digress. Go ahead. Go
So
ahead.
yeah, coming around, I was like, you know what, I might as well do it. I had some time on my hands, feeling a little motivated to create something. I wanted to step away from my normal, creating food sort of thing, kind of cleanse my palate, so to say, with something different. So what I did was I wanted to develop a beat. It just so happened, this is during one of my daily walks, and lo and behold, one of the people that came up was Post Malone, who, for some odd reason, I'm not surprised about anymore, coming up randomly, where he's basically #1 in streams across the world. And I was looking through his stuff, and I was like, hey, I want to make a Post Malone kind of beat, and make Argent kind of work with something like that. So I think, I guess I could showcase it, huh? That might be the best thing to do.
Yeah, I say we play it once,
Sure.
and then we kind of reflect on some of your thought process, like some elements of the track. So go ahead.
Yeah. So let me get this going real quick. All right, let's gear it up. See, we got some of the organs here. Oh shit, I'm fucking up.
Oh,
Simple stuff, right? Simple stuff. Let's go with some bass, yeah?
ooh.
And let's hit them with a little bit of drums.
Woo.
I'm loving this. So it's a little trappy, right?
That hi-hat is so hard. So hard.
So I'll keep that going on in the back a little bit. I think it's a little low. You get the melody going on. But it's something I was working on. Again, it's really based off of Post Malone's Rockstar. Even though I think you wouldn't really know unless you were a hardcore Post Malone fan that this was kind of derived from it. And I think, my thought process was we don't sound like Post Malone in our past work at all. But I wanted to pay homage to him because he's been so successful in the past couple years, and I'm hoping that's something that we can eventually get to. Excuse me, got a little emotional there. So I think this is the beat that we'll probably use. Hopefully. I mean, I plan on doing a couple more, so that way we could kind of showcase, or I could learn first off how to use the program a little bit more, start developing my own sound. But I mean, I think we promised everyone that we'd have an outro beat sometime, and that we would do some new works.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, it's a good first step. See our progress, at least my progress, moving forward, and hopefully I could get Arjun one day to instead of investing in other companies, invest in his own production sometime soon.
Absolutely, and from my amateur producer background, which is really non-existent, I have a few questions for you. Number one, where did you get the sound kits? Were they the default sound kits for Ableton, or did you kind of like download a few just to try different things?
These are actually, so I downloaded some of them, but then part of me was like, hey, let me get used to what the stock sounds are, because there's something beautiful about the program when it's ready to go immediately. And to me, this is my way of proving you could create something great so long as you know how to use the small little intricacies in manipulating the sound, right? Because these are stock basses, but because I've manipulated enough, I feel like I've made it my own a little bit. Again, the 808s are kind of standard, but I think you get that across the board. You could add
Sure.
some reverb or some stretches here and there, but I decided to keep that kind of there. As again, this is the first kind of trap beat style that I've done, or it's the first beat that I've actually done kind of purely where I created it, even though it was kind of ripped from YouTube, or at least taught from
you.
YouTube and made
I
it
got
my
you.
own, you know?
So in this particular formula for the beat, did you? I know you got this from YouTube, but did you start with the melody portion for the bass, or did you start with the drums?
I started with the drums, dude. The drums are everything for when it comes to trap, I think.
Wow.
I think it's drums and then that bass line. That's what you gotta get. The organs are a nice little addition to it, but I don't think they're really necessary. So, and I'll showcase that right now. So turn it up a
So
bit.
one thing that I often struggle with is, like, say I want to work on a new beat, and I have an idea as to what the melody will be like, right? Like, I have an idea in my head, oh, I want to use this particular instrument and make the melody. I struggle with starting with that and then finding a tempo that works and then building the beat around the melody, or starting with the drums, kind of laying down that simple foundation and then just throwing on melody on top of it. And I find that when I do it the first way, where melody first, drums later, the drums kind of get sacrificed and they don't sound as fresh or as innovative. It's just kind of a generic drum beat.
Yeah.
But on the other side, if I focus on the drums first, yeah, the drums might sound better, but the melody becomes too simple. So I wonder, like, what is your approach? I know you're just starting off, so this may be a difficult question, but
Sure.
what is your approach moving forward in terms of knowing, like, what to go with first?
I think what I'm gonna do moving forward is focus on the drums and the bass, because I think the bass is kind of like the backbone of the song, kind of carries the song, gives you that nice constant thing that you could depend on, and the drums give you that thing that dances with you. So you're that extra layer where you provide those uplifting notes, the treble, right, the lead, and I really want to showcase our bars in the future, because again, beats are fantastic, but we're no Kanye, right? I want our beats to be great, but I want our words to be more meaningful.
Hey, so what I'm kind of envisioning long term is, if, to me, like, I think you may have a better, and this is early, just based on one sample size of a track, but I think you may have a better, what's the right way to put it? A better understanding of what kind of drum beats work, right? Like, just based off of this hi-hat pattern that you have, I think it may come more natural to you in terms of pairing a drum beat with a bass line. I wonder if in the future we could do something where, like, let's say you start a project with the drums and the bass line, and then I kind of throw in different things. Maybe I come up with, like, a new melody, and then we kind of just bounce that project back and forth until it becomes a full-blown production.
Hell yeah. Yeah, man. No, that was something that I wanted to do, because I was going to do the same thing, but I was going to put, like, a little EDM twist on it. I wanted to develop our own sound.
Right. I like that. I like that.
So I wanted to mix a little bit of that, but it's hard to mix EDM and trap and who knows. But I think, given the short lifetimes we've had in music, you can see it kind of evolves every maybe 10 years, give or take. Maybe even less
even
than that.
shorter than that. Yeah, less than that for sure.
But then to get, like, the real prominent kind of genres, I think it's like 7 to 10, give or take.
So I kind of wonder, like, for Ableton, I can't imagine that your Ableton file will work with Fruity Loop Studio, right? It probably is like a proprietary save file for Ableton alone.
Yeah, I think it's definitely. I mean, I could always export the sound, but then it's going to come out as one instrument, so to say. So you have to chop it up.
That's true.
And I think I don't know. One day we'll get you on it, because I think Ableton's king. Unless you use GarageBand. No?
Dude.
What's king?
King is honestly, like, probably Pro Tools.
Oh well, yeah. But I mean, Ableton's up there.
I don't know. I don't know if it is for hip hop. Like, you can prove me wrong. I think Logic might use Ableton.
Oh well, look at that. Great. Oh, I'm number 5. Damn. Oh wait, no, this is just popularity.
Oh, let's see. Popular.
Right here, tap
What
that.
are you looking for? DAWs? DAWs?
All right, best rod DAWs. Ooh, that's a. All right, let's see. Best DAWs. Image Line. FL Studio. Huh. I think you're onto something over here.
Here's what I can look. Here's what I can do for you. I think it can't hurt to be versatile with your dogs.
Number three.
Number three? Three's good, man.
Yeah.
What's number two?
Number 2 is Presonus Studio One.
Interesting. I never heard of Kakos Reaper 6.
I know, yeah. That's why I just scrolled right past it.
Yeah.
But again, these are always, and then Logic, of course, is up here, or Apple Logic. Yeah, I think it's more of a preference, right?
No, yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. But I think, let's say, I would prefer that you continue with Ableton Live because this is your new thing. This is like your own thing that you're doing. But on top of that, though, if you could also learn, and I can teach you some of the tricks and whatnot for FL Studio, for collaboration purposes, that might be something that would be a little bit easier. I'll be honest with you, I'm hesitant to move off of FL Studio, mostly because like it has been my comfort zone for so long. Like I know a lot of the tricks for it, but then again, it's up to you, man. I think for now, definitely keep progressing, keep learning how to make these beats and sampling and experimenting, working out the patterns and whatnot. Because like you said, it is a matter of preference, and I'd love to get like a full-blown beat from you, man. If you can take this song and kind of loop it out like I usually do with a bunch of different patterns, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, man. No, sorry, I'm just feeling it again. I'm like shaking my hips over here. Wife's probably looking at me all weird, but it's all good.
Oh, man. So I know we're not going to do the writing session now, but I'm kind of wondering, like, what do you imagine thematically this song being about?
Well, I want to adapt this to at least like an outro sort of song for our podcast / stream.
Okay.
So I'm thinking more of a playful for sure.
Okay.
Like, oh, did you listen to what I said? Get it on YouTube after. Make sure to check us out next week. We'll definitely have some more laughter. Something like that, like something like that, and then it's like, just start humming on randomly. Just have a playful tune that is more memorable melodically from our voices than, the beat. Because again, I want our voices to be king when it comes to ranking our production. So we'll see.
One thing that I'd like for you to try with Ableton is the use of auto-tune. And I mean that in a generic phrase, like not so much as a specific VSTI or a plugin. See if you can figure out a way to like record your audio, for instance. Say you want it to be like Post Malone where he sings a lot. Well, sure, go ahead and sing a little bit to this beat, and then see if you can like use some of the software features to change the pitch of individual syllables and make it sound all smooth and modulated like a professional studio quality sound. That's something that I've always wanted to do, but I never really got around to doing that. So if you can do that in Ableton, that'd be pretty sick.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'll figure it out. There's a way of recording vocals or recorded instruments or real instruments.
Okay.
So we'll definitely figure that out. Maybe I'll throw something together once I have time again to make it work out.
For sure.
I'm gonna actually do a little shout out here. I'm gonna have this on the screen real quick. There we go. Solid. Yeah, man. So we'll get to it. I think making the moves in the right way. And I was also hoping it kind of reinvigorated yourself and your production means to push yourself a little bit further.
I figured there was some secondary motivation for this too.
Man. Hey, it's all friendly competition at the end of the day. Hey, and by the way, I want to bring this up, not to trying to get away from this music piece. UFC was scheduled for May.
Oh, it got rescheduled?
It got rescheduled in May. trying to think of when it was. May 8th, I think.
Trying to see
May
the
9.
news here.
May 9.
Oh,
Hell
okay,
yeah.
okay.
It's gonna be great.
In Florida with no fans. Interesting.
Hey man,
Okay.
well, dude, hey, if the Worldwide Wrestling can get in Florida, pretty sure MMA can. Go see.
Interesting. So I'm on the ESPN article by Brett Okamoto from April 24th right now. It says UFC is moving forward with plans to hold 3 events in Florida within an 8-day period, starting with, as you said, UFC 249 on May 9th. Interesting. So the bouts are all going to be the same?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'd be more comfortable looking that up the week prior.
Oh, okay.
Right?
I got you. Yeah.
Because things could always change, and who knows? We might see a spike for whatever reason come up. I think Georgia just opened up, and some other states, and I'm kind of like, well, good luck, you know. Rather err on the side of caution at these times, but I get it.
You know, I saw what Georgia's been doing. They opened up on Friday, and I also saw some reports about Sweden, and you might have heard this too, but Sweden's apparently one of those countries that's not really doing any lockdown. I think people are being mindful, and they are socially distancing when they're walking around and whatnot, but nobody's really closing down businesses or preventing people from living their lives or whatever. And the results are not fully in yet, but it'll be an interesting experiment, right? Like, if they find out by doing what Sweden did, they have a similar mortality rate or even lower than what other countries are doing, do you think that shows you, yes, it's only one case study, but do you think that shows you that maybe what America has been doing, what other countries have been doing, may not necessarily be necessary?
Well, first off, I think it's hard to make that comparison because they're obviously very different countries. And location-wise, it's obviously going to be different when you take into account density or population density. That's part of the reason why New York was the hardest hit. They were one of the first states to go on full lockdown, if not the first, I don't know. Yet their exposure still continued to climb just because of how close people live to each other. Right, so that's one thing. But at the same time, you can't really say that because Taiwan is also a densely populated country for what it is. Same with India, though I don't know what India's is right now. But I don't think Sweden is built up as much as New York is, you know, regarding apartments and population density per square mile sort of thing. Sure. But I think when it comes to just comparing and isolating the U.S. and Sweden, I would much rather be on the side that overreacts to this than underreacts. Right. Granted, the economy is taking a hit, and we're putting ourselves more and more into a deficit every day that passes with these kind of mandates that are going on. Not mandates, but you know what I mean. I don't know. I think it's an overreaction in comparison to other countries, but I think it was the right choice, especially given the fact that there is no known cure, or we didn't, you know, initially, if the trajectory kept climbing as it was climbing, we would eventually run out of hospital space and equipment. I think this bought us, at the very least, enough time to catch up again. Right, because there's no longer giant lines. I mean, there's still lines, but it's understandable now. You know, there's toilet paper in places and stuff like that. It at least gave us enough time to catch up to reach that baseline. Now, when they open the gates, we might see that again. So I would much rather keep things as they are and keep overreacting than do what Sweden did. Especially because Sweden now has that head start. Who knows? I think taking the kind of herd immunity approach is the wrong approach, because I'm assuming, if we check that, average health of Swedish people versus Americans, I assume Swedish people have a higher average, health rating than the U.S. And I don't know what to actually check this. Let's just check this life expectancy. Right? Yeah, so Sweden's on average actually live longer. What else? Health equity. Boom. So
Okay. So I think the point you're trying to make is
what did that thing
per
go?
capita, the percentage of the population in the United States that suffer from pre-existing conditions,
Sure.
like let's say diabetes, heart problems, high blood pressure, whatever it may be, it tends to be higher than that of countries like Sweden. And so even if the virus is still transmitting over there, maybe more and more people will just have a mild symptom.
Mild symptoms or be asymptomatic, and they probably have a better immunity overall. And it shows in just the healthy years, I think, if we stretch that a bit, saying that people are generally healthy through 72 compared to our 68, rounding up. Shows on average, they probably take better care of their bodies than we do. Not to mention our industrial approach and non-belief in damn climate change. I'm sure it's definitely different beliefs over there. But I think every government has the right to approach this problem the way they see fit. Good for you, Sweden. I hope nothing bad happens. But for the U.S. right now, and given the American cowboy mentality that many people have, I think the government's decision to shut things down was the right call.
I mean, I guess what I worry about is, in the future, the aftermath of all this working from home, or not even working from home, but lockdown. Like, I know people are losing their jobs out there. I know people are unhappy. There's a lot of malcontents. And not only that, but even the people who are, let's say, isolated, right? Like, I think when you are isolated, things like depression and anxiety tend to ramp up a little bit. You may have more mental issues just from the fact that you're away from people. And I don't think we fully understand yet what the full breadth of that effect will be in the months and years moving forward. That may even cause a dramatic increase in, let's say, hospital cases having to do with mental disorders. Maybe suicides. I hate to say it. Suicides and other things.
To bang on that note, if anything, what this has done is it's accelerated the pace by which healthcare is growing here in the U.S. We are significantly more apt than we were at the beginning of the year to tackle healthcare issues and really triage things. And speaking as someone that works in healthcare, I could say that with certainty. Before, as early as last year, seeing a doctor online was hard because doctors didn't want to do it, right? But now it's pretty much commonplace where people want to see their doctors virtually, and doctors want to do the same thing. That technology has been with us for maybe 10 plus years. Yet only now...
Well, hold on though. Isn't that partially fueled by the fact that it's just smarter for doctors to telemed to...
Of course.
What is it called? Telemedicine? Because you can't really see all the people with coronavirus or sicknesses.
I get it. But it's the same thing. Who knows what your patients have when they come to see you? On average, and I'm sure this is the same for you as well as it is for me, in my belief, I'm not going to go see a doctor unless I'm sick anyways.
I'm that way too.
So, I mean, when a doctor is seeing a patient, the likelihood that they have something going on is already there. COVID is just now an isolated sort of known sickness that is mainstream.
I guess I understand. And I know where you're going with this, but I'm trying to take it a step forward because I think now with the fact that so many, what's the right word? Elective surgeries, elective procedures are being postponed because of COVID-19. I think a lot of doctors have more time to do telemedicine. They're not seeing patients as much as they were before.
No. Let me stop you. Because elective surgeries are different. Elective surgeries are, again, they're not necessary. They're one of those, let's get it done. But those are set to specific kinds of doctors. Surgeons. You're isolating that. Now, that's one specialty out of at least 24. And the ones I'm really talking about are internal meds.
You're talking about like family
Yeah.
physicians, basically. But do you think that family physicians, especially during this lockdown era that we're in, are seeing just the same number of patients that they were before in person?
I would argue they're seeing more.
How are they seeing more patients in person?
Less paperwork.
In person? What do you mean?
No. I mean, they're seeing less in person than they are on the virtually.
No, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And it's because of coronavirus that this is happening. I don't think that, if coronavirus never happened, I don't think we would see that. I think coronavirus is the reason why we're seeing telemedicine be so much more popular and ramped up to the point that it is. It's not a natural evolution of things. It's more like
sure, it's a force. It's force.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's what I'm saying. It's an accelerant. It's like pouring gas on a flame that needed the gas to begin with. We've had this technology for years. And now it's barely being utilized to its, most efficient manner. We could have been doing this for years, cutting costs across the board. But no, we didn't want to. Even though people were seeing their doctors whenever they had to when they were sick. This is accelerating the acceptance of new technology and expanding the availability of what healthcare is to people. Because now I think, at least, a year from now, when the next flu season comes, hopefully, as soon as we get rid of the one we're currently in, this methodology of utilizing technology becomes commonplace rather than having to go in and fill up that waiting room. So it's as much of a loss as it was to the economy. There are certain sectors that are amplifying and adapting the way that this free world that we live in should be doing on a constant basis. And to stretch away from healthcare, if we go to the restaurant industry, look at how many people can now serve their things to go. There are certain restaurants out there that never would have thought that, but yet they're still doing it now, and they're making ends meet, more or less. It's an accelerant to change that, though it sucks right now, it opens up new avenues and new doors for existing practices that should have been updated many, many years ago. It's a sacrifice, but it's working.
It's interesting that you mentioned this, because I was thinking about this as you were saying, and I think the restaurants that are more adaptive and decide, okay, we will now just serve food for pickup only, for to go, for takeaway only, for collaborations with Grubhub, DoorDash, whatever it may be. Those are the ones that are going to be okay. Those are the ones that are going to be able to survive this thing. But a lot of restaurants aren't necessarily doing that. And I think, I kind of wonder, the whole idea of sitting at a restaurant, it's more beneficial for the restaurant because you pay a large tip usually, the gratuity. I think in a lot of these DoorDash orders, Grubhub orders, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a percentage of the sale is actually taken by Grubhub or taken by the delivery service.
Yep, and it's usually a large chunk, but yeah. And
so I kind of wonder, is that the reason why not more restaurants are doing this? Is it because they're kind of worried that if they do shift over to this and this becomes the norm for them and customers get used to the idea of just picking up food this way, in the long run they'll lose business? They won't be able to be as profitable in the long run?
Could be. It could be many, many reasons. I think that's really case specific when it comes to the owner or CEO or board, depending on the size of the food company. But what I can say is these companies that are adapting are taking on the basic business premise of adapt or die. If you're not adapting to the times, then you're going to eventually get phased out. Granted, there's always going to be these old school steakhouse places, for example, that you need to be eating there in person when the steak comes out fresh. You can't have it sitting for so long or whatnot. But these other places that aren't adapting, do you think they're leasers? Is that the right term? Person leasing the property to them? Do you think they're waiting for them?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well,
You
okay.
know? But I would, if I was the leaser, I would be much, much happier saying, okay, let's say there's 2 restaurants side by side. There's one restaurant that is just like, all right, we're shutting down, until this whole thing opens up again. We're shutting down, close all the lights, let's minimize our overhead losses here and suffer the burden. And restaurant 2 is minimal staff, producing goods or food, though not making the same amount of money, making enough to at least get by, and enough to give me a little bit to pay for the rent. Which would you rather have?
Well, I mean, that again also depends on case studies, right? Like if the block that you're leasing these, spaces out is very popular, maybe next to a business plaza or something, it doesn't matter, because even if that restaurant 1 goes out of business and can't stay open for too long, somebody else will come and as a leaseor, if that's the right word, you'll be able to get your income. You'll be able to get your money either way. So I think there's enough demand out there for restaurant space, for retail space, especially when it comes to like the food industry, that the leaseors will be okay either way.
I'd argue otherwise, saying the leaser is going to be like, nope, get out then. You're not following the contract saying that you're paying me. I have every right to evict you, more or less.
Well, sure, but again, that ties into what I'm saying, because it doesn't matter at the end of the day. If you stay or if you don't stay, somebody will be paying. If you stay and you're cooking, that's great. Keep paying my rent if I'm the leaseor. Otherwise, if you're not paying and you're just not making anything for your company, you're going out of business, goodbye, pack your bags. I'll find somebody else to take that space, and that new tenant will pay me. I think from the leaseor's perspective, they'll be healthy either way.
It's hard. Well, yeah. Okay, probably bad example on my end. Just know I'm right, you're wrong, okay? And let's go ahead and move on forward.
My bad.
No.
I took the nitty-gritty route.
No. And I think we're both right and wrong. It's really going to be dependent on each example that we can put forth. Every case is going to be different. But if we go back to the original question of whether or not the U.S. did something correct compared to what Sweden did, and we took whether we took the correct measures, we will never know. What I do know is, because of those measures, we were able to adapt many industries, and some are going to be losers, and some within those industries that have adapted and grown, there's going to be smaller players that get pushed out. That's a fact. But it's a capitalist country. It's kind of one of those. That's what makes us successful. You grow, or you get out of the way for someone that's willing to take that spot and take that revenue.
No, I think you're right.
Right?
I guess you're right in also saying that we'll never know for sure how Plan A through Z will work out. And hindsight would only tell us so much information about the specific decisions that we made as the United States. It won't tell us what would have happened if we had done things a little bit differently. But obviously, as a thinker, you can't help but imagine, what if from the very beginning we told everybody to wear masks just to reduce the transmission rate? Would doing that have been enough? Instead of telling people to, close down businesses that are not essential, not go to work and all that, if you just continue your day-to-day with social distancing as much as possible, wear masks, what if that could have saved just as many lives? I can't help wonder those things.
Yeah, and we'll always question that. And I apologize to my dog. That's Lulu right there doing her job. Look at that. We'll never know. We kind of have to use the best data that we have and use the most accurate data. Of course, if everybody adopted measures of wearing a mask or social distancing, the likelihood of it making a positive effect is definitely greater. To what magnitude, or to really put a number on it, don't know. It's going to be directional at best. And I mean, I wish we had the cure already, or I wish China closed their shit down before it, spread across the world. But I can imagine if it originated in any other country, they probably would have done the same thing that China did.
I disagree with that.
Really?
What makes you think that other countries would have waited so long before
Because
sharing intelligence?
it's not so much that, it's being the best. Sorry, having the best information available, and in the case of patient 0, it takes time. God, my dogs are really loud. I apologize, everyone.
It's all right. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your dogs, because I actually didn't know you had dogs. So
yeah. Well, I got two dogs, 2 Australian Shepherds.
Oh, wow.
They're great.
Australian Shepherds, you say? Let me look that up.
Yeah.
Australian Shepherd. Let me take a look. Oh, that's so cute. Wow.
Well, adapt or die. Right?
Sure.
I don't want to just end on that note with or just hard cut it there. We'll never know, man.
Oh,
but I think
okay.
Again, if every country didn't know, whenever there's a new problem, people will not be able to look at historical data or approaches to address their concerns. China had that issue, and they didn't have anything to really hinge on. Sure, they had the SARS epidemic and stuff like that, but this was supposedly not that bad. And I'm not trying to defend them, but I am at the same time saying that I think they did their best to protect their people, as every country should do. And it just so happened that they didn't care too much about the economy as Sweden does in keeping it running. Rather, they cared about their economy, so they kept it running as Sweden's do it. Whereas in the US, we're kind of changing our pros and cons lists, and which every country is doing. I don't know, man. It's a tough one. You could always say it's like a communist regime sort of approach, like according to last episode, this shit really originated from a lab or whatever. I mean, you could say that sort of stuff, and we'll never know, man. Like, I like to be not passive. What's the word? Apathetic to the beginning of things when it comes to these sort of debates. To me, the end justifies the means, especially when it comes to life or death situations. And
well, okay, I can understand that general philosophy, but going back to something you said before,
sure,
you're saying you can understand that a country will protect its own people over
Oh,
everything
shit.
else.
Oh, headphones fell. Hold up. Hold on. Wait. Country protect their own. Okay, I'm back in.
Okay, it's all good. It's all good. I could feel the imbalance. I could envision the imbalance as you were doing that. But what I'm thinking is this. Okay, it's one thing to care about your own people and to protect their interests, but when you inadvertently, let's say, release something that kills way more people in other countries than it does in your country, or at least that's what the official numbers seem to show, that seems a little fucked up, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. From the receiving side, but from their side, kind of like, oops, my bad. Here's what we know so far, and they're doing a good job of, distributing their supplies, their technology. I think. I don't know. I haven't read anything. I'm not a conspiracy theorist today. Yeah.
Well, here's what I think. I think since this was China, and they are a world power, top 2 in the world.
Yeah.
And they have such a huge economy, and a lot of manufacturing is so dependent on them globally.
Yep.
I think they're going to get away with a lot. And I think a lot of the questions that people have won't be answered, and we'll never kind of know the true origin. But imagine if this wasn't China. Imagine if this was something like South Korea, or if this was Japan or Vietnam,
Yeah, you just throw a
right?
bomb their way, right?
Well, it's more like because those countries are more open,
Mm-hmm.
because those countries are more, I guess, transparent with a lot of their communication, with a lot of their research, and a lot of what they're doing in general, there's not as much censorship as there is in China. I think they would be held to a higher standard. I think they'd be held to more accountability. I think they would have to pay more directly and immediately for any kind of lapse in judgment, like waiting before telling everybody else in the world, like, hey, yeah, like 2 months ago, this happened, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's something that we often forget. I think superpowers in the world, especially those with nuclear weaponry, they're able to get away with more because they're a threat. They're a global threat. And also, they're a global player, a major player. They have so much investment all over the world.
Sure.
Other countries are dependent on them for their own success, that China, for this particular example, can get away with more. They can get away with not telling people. I just don't see other countries doing this, Don. I know you say that other countries would as well, but most, democratic nations, as big of a fuck up this might be, I don't think they would wait this long.
I don't
You
know.
know?
I don't know. I mean, if I were the leader of a country, I would hide that shit. Yeah, no. We got this. No. Wait, reporter. No, ship him out. Ship him out. We don't need him here. Everything's good. You know,
Mhm.
because it's all about respect nowadays and playing the political game, and you get away with what you can get away with.
Mm.
This is
Yeah.
definitely not taking the probably planned um, ending that they had wanted, but no risk, no reward.
Well, why do you think that, even before COVID-19, why do you think we don't have a greater global task force to not only deal with these problems, but also handle the supply chain consequences?
Sure. No, I
Like,
think it's
like for,
even before supply chain. Let's just talk a little more broader scale or outside of business. Nobody gives a shit about public health. I have a damn master's in public health, yet I don't use it.
mm,
And the
mm,
reason being, doesn't make money. It loses money for whoever's running it, right? Because public health, if successful, less. Are you eating stinky tofu?
no,
No.
but
My
your
my,
wife,
my wife
your
is.
wife,
It,
yes.
oh, jeez. Okay.
Is there smell?
Yeah, a little bit.
Punch.
Okay, go. Oh, Jesus. Anyways, lost my train of thought. Have you ever had stinky tofu?
No, I've heard it's very smelly though.
One day, we'll get you. We'll get you.
Wait,
I
so
can't.
I
I
get the
can't do it.
feeling, do you like it? Do you like stinky tofu?
No, I don't. I don't.
Oh,
I
you
can't.
don't? Okay,
It's a.
got you.
Every country has their own kind of fermented products.
Uh-huh.
I can't. No, no thanks. I hear it has great nutritional value and all that.
Sure,
Not for me.
sure. Okay,
Um,
understood. Understood.
but what were we talking about? What was I supposed to answer?
You're saying before talking about the business side of it,
Oh, yeah,
talk
yeah.
about it in
Public
broader
health,
terms.
right?
Yep.
So public health doesn't make money when it's successful. And I think that's just nobody wants to develop something that does not generate a dollar on that scale. So these programs that are meant to kind of stop, nip at the bud, sort of prevent these sort of pandemics are already one of the smallest industries in the world that nobody gives a shit about, because when public health works, no one gives a shit. But when shit hits the fan, public health all of a sudden matters. So I think that's why we're in the problem that we are now. Public health does not get the recognition it should have. It should have more, and I'm sure it will moving forward, and we'll be better prepared to tackle issues like this in the future. But I would have said the same thing when SARS was happening, and look where we are today.
So can I ask then, when you say there needs to be more attention and I guess funding given to
Yep.
public health, when you say this, are you basically advocating for universal health care in America?
No, no, no,
Would
no,
that-
no, 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 no. I'm talking about just the development of taking care of people, making sure they live a healthy lifestyle, do all the
Sure,
preventative things. That's public health. When it comes to universal health care, I don't touch them. I don't see a relation when it comes to that in public health. Because to
because
me,
if you have everybody with health care, then don't you think more people will be healthy?
no, because like we agreed upon earlier, you don't see your doctor unless you're sick. So the
Right.
job
But
of public
the
health
thing
is to stop you from getting sick in the first place.
I understand, but one of the advantages of having healthcare in general is if you are sick, you have somewhere to go to without you losing your mortgage, without you
Sure.
losing every.
I get it, but then you wouldn't be sick in the first place if public health was successful.
But okay, I do understand that train of thought, but to get to that point, I think more people would need access to healthcare in general when they are
No,
sick.
no, you need access to other things before access to healthcare. You need access to a program where you can actually get fruits and vegetables and teach you how to utilize fruits and vegetables rather than eating fast food, processed foods, cereal for breakfast, sodas, stuff like that. Stay away from sugar. Stuff that we're all guilty of. You know, I'm being a hypocrite in saying that, and I've studied public health. That shit's delicious, you know? And it was made for a reason because it could be mass produced and it's a way to get calories into people. But the fact that it's processed stuff that is cheap, so poor people can buy it compared to rich people buying the more expensive stuff like organic produce, for example, public health would address those issues, which would allow us to get healthier overall and not be ranked 22nd in the world, like from what I showed earlier. I don't know if I'm even answering your question, or I think we're probably just talking about different things.
No, I don't disagree with anything that you're saying. I think what you're talking about more is just a change in philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, instead of focusing on processed food, stay away from that and understand what you really need to fuel your body, what things will really
as
benefit
one
you.
aspect, right? One aspect, right?
Okay.
So it's access to those sort of things, access to parks, access to community workouts, or the education behind why we do certain things to protect our bodies and maintain a certain wellness that everybody should be entitled to. I don't think in the capitalist country we live in, universal health care will make it. Because we already have something like that called Medicare once you reach the age of 65.
Right, but you just said once you reach the age of 65, the majority of the United States is not over 65.
I get it. So then take care of yourself and let public health take care of you. That way you don't need
It's a
to.
philosophy.
Yeah.
Your view of public health is a umbrella-like philosophy that covers a lot of different things that
It
would
is public
require.
health. That is public health,
No,
though.
I understand, but like what you're basically advocating for is something that requires tremendous investment over decades. And what I'm really saying is a step toward achieving some of those tenets of public health would be universal health care.
I get it.
because
Okay. I get it. I can see that. I don't think it's necessary. Because, all right, if I could, spit honesty, I think you and I are both already fucked because we've already been eating processed food our whole lives, right? If we take that
our whole
approach,
lives, our whole
right?
lives, yeah.
But for future generations, so using us as an example, down the line, we're already been exposed. Universal healthcare is not gonna change the fact that we're eventually gonna get hopefully not, right? Knock on wood. Shit, for me especially. It's not going to change the fact that we'll probably get sick in the future. Keyword probably. And die.
Well, I guess the thing is, universal healthcare doesn't mean much for us, for you and me, because we typically get our insurance, our health insurance, through our employer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit different. Really, what I'm saying is, there's plenty of people out there who are, underprivileged, maybe in different, very densely populated urban neighborhoods that simply don't have the same type of access to healthcare that we would do at any moment. I know you don't go to the doctor as often as maybe you should. Same for me. I'm guilty of that too. But when something bad really does happen, when we can't really fix a problem just with some R&R and a little bit of vitamin C, then we have the ability to go to the doctor, book an appointment, and do so without it costing us an arm and a leg, right? Sure. So we have that access. And I think one of the steps to achieving public health is getting everybody on board, giving everybody an opportunity to access this kind of health care without needing to stop paying the rent, without needing to go broke or go homeless. Because you have to live with the problems that you currently have to really address them. You can't all of a sudden imagine a world where everyone has our park access, everyone has access to fresh fruits and vegetables, and they're cheaper than fast food. It's just not going to work like that. You kind of have to be in the environment that's already been created, find ways to change things, tweak things in that environment, and then slowly but surely, future generations, like you said, will have a better opportunity to take care of themselves and understand that to really have a full life, to be like the guys in Sweden, you have to avoid certain things. And if you do it,
that's public health, man. It's public health. But it is, man. Yeah. It is.
No, I'm laughing, but no, I agree. I agree in principle.
It's like one of those chicken or egg sort of situations.
I think we know what the chicken is, though. I think we know which one. Or actually, I think we know which one comes first in terms of practicality. I think public health is a goal that we should all strive forward to. We should all strive to achieve this vision of public health where everybody is, getting access to good food, to good nutrition, to workout, exercise, everything like that, parks and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But the reality of the situation is, you even mentioned it, in a capitalistic society like we have, where there's money in the fast food business, there's money in processed food and manufacturing things quickly with chemicals and all that. Do you really see that happening? Especially given the course of history, given how SARS happened before, Spanish flu happened before.
That's also, again, a spin back and relate. I don't see universal health care passing in the U.S. ever. Our system would crumble based off of the economics of it all.
Do you realize that
other countries are very successful in doing it?
No. I'm not even going to say that example. I'm going to say the founding fathers probably never envisioned we'd have socialist policies like Social Security, in the 1900s, right?
Yeah.
Do you realize Social Security is broken? Like, you and I.
We're fucked. Yeah, I know. I know. And it's kind of, I want to say I want to take the soft approach and agree, like, everybody deserves everything. But when you have such a competitive spirit that the SoCal DNA has, it's hard to just forego that. And I don't know, like, do you think if the person that doesn't pay for their healthcare should receive better access than you if you're willing to pay an extra $100? Should that happen?
I don't agree with that philosophy. I don't agree with the premise of that philosophy, where paying more gives you access, because I think that is what it currently is.
Yeah.
I think that's the current system we live in. I think that's not only true for healthcare, but for a lot of things in life. If you have enough money, you can get things done.
But then why would a doctor not take the money?
Because I think at the end of the day, it comes down to what you envision healthcare is about. I don't really think and you probably agree with this, even though it's not the reality of the situation. Healthcare should not be about profit. I think that's what it really comes down to for me.
It's
I think
not.
healthcare
Yeah.
should be about helping the people that really need it and making sure that we're all healthy and able to live lives to the fullest potential that we can. So it's almost like this altruistic type of vision of healthcare, which is not exactly real. It's not exactly practical because for healthcare to work, you do need money to be behind it. But that's how I view it. I think everybody should have access to healthcare, and I think the system should be good as well. I think, one of the main concerns with universal healthcare is if everybody is under this one policy through the government or whatever, the quality of healthcare may deteriorate because there's going to be so many more people, going to the doctor, and there's going to be tons of people that are going to overload the system. And the way that our current infrastructure is set up, they may not be, capable enough to coordinate and handle all of the patients and all of the different cases. There may not be time for the GPs, the general physicians, to, you know, see everybody and meet everybody and talk to everybody. So it's like it's a iterative process. I feel you need to go through some growing pains to change the system in a way that it is beneficial to everybody everywhere in America. I mean, look, nobody told, you know, the founding fathers and presidents and governments of America after 1776 to keep expanding, but they wanted to because we were imperialistic in that way. We were all about the new frontier. We were all about Louisiana Purchase, taking up other people's territories, taking up, other countries, even or areas like Puerto Rico, for instance. Puerto Rico is technically under the U.S., right? We have some kind of jurisdiction over it, but a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people don't think about that, but they do get protection from us. And it's one of those situations where when you have all these states, when you have all this landmass, nearly 400 million people in the earth, not in the earth, but 400 million people in the United States, you're kind of accountable for them. And yeah, you can always talk about, oh, this is too many people and we can't really do all the things that other countries do. You can say that until the cows come home, but find a way. I mean, look, I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but some people are really, really smart. Logistically, they can understand how to make things work. I'm sure a lot of people have smart ideas. It may take years, it may take decades, but I hope to see America get to a point where we have some sort of system. You don't have to call it universal healthcare, but some sort of system where everybody, every citizen, and even people who aren't citizens have access to a healthcare professional to get the advice they need and also to get any kind of treatment or medication they need. That's just something that I hope eventually happens. Will it be in our lifetime? I don't know. I don't know if it will. But I think the more you go on and you see other countries do it and have higher health expectancies, health ratings like the one you found out about Sweden, which may be the case for other European countries, Western European countries compared to the US, the greater that divide becomes, where the average life expectancy for people in the UK, for instance, or for other countries in the Western European area become larger and larger than that of America, I think that's a problem. And I think you can point that toward healthcare. I think you can point that toward higher taxes and a larger portion of that government budget going toward healthcare than it is for military, than it is for other things. So this is just me being idealistic, but I hope to see in our lifetimes greater, priority given to, like you said, public health. Of course, access is important too. Philosophy, understanding is important too. Changing the way we view things is important, but also access to simple healthcare. Why not?
Too idealistic.
Maybe.
I'm a
Maybe.
realist, man, and it's not going to work out. Not, again, not in our lifetimes, at least.
Mm.
I mean, hopefully this whole COVID thing will spark interest in such tendencies and beliefs.
Mm.
But as a pessimist, when it comes to these sort of issues,
Mm.
I'm still going to do whatever I can in my power to make sure that my family doesn't have to suffer the consequences, and by whatever means that dictates, I will do. In this case, it means generate as much capital and cash on hand
Mm.
as possible. I don't want to play by different rules that everybody else is playing at. because why put myself in that position unless I'm already in the lead? And then it becomes cyclical because those in the lead continue to just grow and grow and grow and gain more strength across all avenues. So I don't know. It's a very complicated thing to do where baby steps are required, but those baby steps are already hard to do with how hard set our structure is right now. But it takes these sort of unforeseen issues. What's the right word for unforeseen historical?
I would say circumstances.
Sure. There we go. That's a better word.
Sure.
To spark that thought process. Now, depending on who's the decision maker at the time, that may definitely play an effect. But I mean, time will tell. But I can at least say with our current status, at least from my take, the D's take, it's make sure your ass is protected. Don't listen to Arjun and fight for the idealism when you don't have to. Protect yourself, man. You know, because otherwise you're gonna have people lining up, and I'll be like, "Hey, man, told you so. Peace. That's your problem now."
That's true. I'll be texting you from the clinic, the line outside the clinic. Hey, man, there's like 100 people in front of me, man, and I saw these guys like they were bums just outside McDonald's, but now they're in line in front of me. And I work for a living. What's going on here? What is this bullshit?
Yeah, man. All right, like again, it's like one of those. What I think is, and again, this is a stretch. It's a slippery slope once you socialize one thing. Everybody's gonna want access to it. Who's to say then that, you know, like, why shouldn't someone working at McDonald's make the same amount you make? It's a basic right to be able to purchase food to live in a home, right?
See, what you're doing is you're taking the logical extension towards socialism.
Yep.
100% socialism.
Go ahead, sorry.
I don't believe everybody should be paid the same, regardless of
why
what
not?
they do, if that's what you're getting at.
Why not? The dollar, or rather, money is the purchasing thing that allows you access to fulfill your wants and needs right now.
Right.
So doesn't everybody have?
Right.
Shouldn't everybody have access to those sort of things?
I think there's a difference between wants and needs, though.
Yeah.
And
okay. So to all the needs then. So again,
okay.
why?
If we go to the needs in particular, I'd like to believe that there's certain human needs that should be pretty much critical for everybody. And moving forward, I do believe that healthcare should be one of those things.
Okay.
If you are somebody living in the United States in an ideal situation, you should have access to some healthcare. You should have a medical professional to consult with if you do have something wrong with you. You shouldn't be without any options. So that's something that I consider to be a need. Do I consider a house to be a need? No, I don't. I consider shelter to be a need. I think you should be able to make enough money to rent somewhere, whether it's a room or a apartment, whatever it may be. Do I consider a car to be a need? Not necessarily, no. I think you should have access to public transportation. I think you should have access to cheaper transportation through Uber, through Lyft, whatever it may be, just to get you somewhere really fast. Those kind of things are integral. So to answer your question, no, I don't believe everybody should be paid the same. I think capitalism is still important because capitalism is a great motivator for people, right? I think one of the tenets of capitalism in a democratic society that often gets overlooked is how we tend to have creative ideas. We tend to have, innovative ideas. Whereas in other nations that are more communistic, because they're so suppressed and kind of normalized in terms of salary, AGI, as you like to say, all these factors kind of prevent them from being as innovative, as risk-taking, as entrepreneurial, simply because they're not encouraged to do so. There is no financial incentive to do so. So I think it's two things, right? Have those basic essentials, healthcare, shelter, access to food and whatnot, have those taken care of and maybe even subsidized by the government to make sure that you got those fundamental rights taken care of. Anything beyond that, that's up to you. That's where the meritocracy comes into
But
play, and
so
it becomes dog eat dog in that capacity.
we do have access for people. It's called
Do we?
Medi-Cal. Yeah.
Do we have access to everybody, Don?
Yeah.
Does everyone have insurance?
Well,
No, they don't.
that's why
No,
you
they
you
don't.
file for Medi-Cal when you can't afford it.
Do you think everybody would have done that by now?
No,
Like, if it were
because
that
they don't
easy,
understand how to reach out. That's why what is it? Covered California exists, for example. Regardless of how much you make, you have access.
I don't think if it was that simple for people to get health insurance, I think if it was that simple, everybody would have it already. This wouldn't be something that's a conversation, right?
No, I mean it's difficult because there are people out there that just don't know where to go to get these things taken care of. And it's an education issue that public health should be able to address, but we don't have the amount of money to be able to do so, so we do what we can.
But I mean, it's still, I think it's oversimplifying what it is. If that were the case, and basically you could just say, oh, hey, everyone from grade school, hey, go to this website and you'll have insurance.
Dude, that's the same thing with, like, I mean, all us adults nowadays say, we never took a budgeting or personal budget class, but it's kind of expected that you know it.
Well, budgeting is a different issue. But I agree. I think people
No,
should
it's
have.
a long-term planning thing to a basic, good future outlook in life.
Well, when I say different issue, I mean with regards to the healthcare conversation. I think yes, financial budgeting for your own life is important, so you don't waste money frivolously, and you understand
Yeah,
that you shouldn't
I can't
always
wait
be
to.
buying.
I'm waiting for
beyond
my
your means.
pre-order for the PS5 to come through, man. Waiting on one of those.
Have you pre-ordered already? I didn't
I'm
know they
trying,
were-
dude. I'm like constantly checking every freaking day.
Wait, why, dude? Why are you so impatient? Like, who cares? It's fine.
I care, dude. I care because I
Like-
earned that money to be able to
No, I
spend
know,
it
yeah,
that way.
I mean, of course. No, yeah, I understand. You'll buy a PS5 eventually, but why do you care about getting it on day one? Like, that's the thing I don't get.
That's just me. It's a flex move.
Oh.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I like to wait for a little bit of a
I
discount.
get
That's
it.
just
Yeah,
me.
no, I mean, to
I'm
me,
sure
it's
that
just flexing. I don't know. It's a different mentality, man. I think I take the what's it? The Drake approach to his music, where it's like, yeah, it's all about the having it, being on top.
Yeah, no, I understand.
But anyways, it's like one of the it's issues that, again, I agree with you. I'm playing devil's advocate. I think that universal healthcare should be at least an option for many people, and access to it should be provided for all those that have universal healthcare, which is basically everyone. I do think there should be a staggered part where people with money, if they want, can enter concierge services with doctors that already do it today. Right? Because you don't want to take away something that will piss off so many people in the world who ultimately make a lot of decisions that you and I both live in day to day.
So in a way, would you advocate? And I'm not necessarily saying that I would prefer universal health care over any other.
No, it's got to be an
alternative
option.
solution.
It's just got to be an
Right.
option.
Exactly. So that's what I'm going to say here now. I think one of the things that Pete Buttigieg, former Democratic candidate,
Your guy? Was he your guy?
I kind of liked him. I'm not going to lie. I did kind of like him. I thought that he spoke very eloquently, and
Like
I
our boy
didn't-
Barack?
In some ways, yeah. I thought that out of everybody on stage, I think the way that Buttigieg spoke, it was refreshing. He was a younger face.
Exactly.
And,
That's what I was going to say. I was going to make fun and be like, oh, it's because he's a younger guy. Yeah.
he was the youngest guy, actually, out of everybody. Like, youngest. Like,
He was the
probably in
most
his late
relatable,
30s.
I would say, out of all
think
the...
so.
Yeah.
I think so. I think he had a lot of potential. Hopefully he fixes the situation in wherever he's from, South Bend, Indiana, because apparently he had some problems over there, too, and he had some issues getting the black vote. I think a lot of people didn't trust him based on the way he handled some things. But points aside, all those things aside, one of the things he advocated for was a public option. And he was basically saying that, yeah, everybody should have access, but if you like, what you currently have with your employer, buying healthcare insurance through your employer, then by all means continue doing so. It shouldn't be stripped away from you just because everybody else is now getting on board with this healthcare.
Yeah,
So-
I get it. But we
And,
have, like I said,
I-
we have those. So he's essentially just trying to expand the the route to attaining it, because there's stuff out there already.
Yeah, but people with pre-existing conditions
get
have a harder time.
No,
You know.
they don't. There are some stuff out there that, granted, there are some bigger hoops that you'd have to travel through, and some disclosures that you're going to have to do, even though you may feel uncomfortable with. There are ways to do it. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's something.
That's what I said. I said harder time, and then
I get
you just
it.
cut me off.
No, because I automatically think you're pushing it. Whatever. Anyways, I'm right. You're wrong. All right.
Okay.
Anyway, no,
Fair.
I mean, at the end of the day, I think the SoCal DNA can agree. The option should be given to everyone, at the very least.
Option meaning
To some sort of healthcare.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I just that's what I'm basically advocating for. I just want everybody to have some form of access.
Yeah.
I like the way I have it now. To be honest with you, I'm sure you do too. But that's the selfish way of thinking. Right?
Sure, and
it's
I
easy
mean,
to say, I'm good. My
it's-
family's good. It's easy to think.
It's
that
the
way.
world we live in. It's still a tribal mentality, I think, which is rightfully so, given the circumstances. Growing up in the ghetto 4053, tough times. It's hard streets of 4053. Laguna was tough.
That West Peltison was hard.
It
man.
was
West
tough,
Peltison.
dude. There was like a hill on that sucker. That thing was rough.
Man, yeah.
But I think the options out there should be there. It's difficult because I could see so many issues, but I don't want to bog it down, right? Just to mention it, to cover my ass. Pharmacy is going to have to change. Acute hospitals are going to have to expand, even though they're told to contract. And there's going to have to be a flood of doctors to meet the demand, where there are certain levers in the industry that are controlling that tap. But I'll leave it at that. On a lighter note, what do you got planned for the rest of the weekend, man?
Well, man, it's like already Sunday, isn't it?
Almost.
Let's see.
No, it's like oh shit. We're piecing out after this.
Oh shit, my bad. Yeah, I think we went a little bit over. Let's see. This weekend, well, actually, sadly, I'll be working Sunday night.
Lame-o.
I don't have to go in.
What a
but,
corporate-minded fella you are.
Well,
Look at
only
that.
because in my line of work, I have to work with a lot of people who are in Asia,
Oh, yeah.
and obviously, as
Wuhan?
you know, because of the time. No, not Wuhan.
Okay.
In this particular situation, Taiwan.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Yeah. So basically, we have a lot of field engineers all over the world, and one of the things I do, I have to kind of like train them and kind of like guide them as far as like how to solve and debug different issues.
Sure.
And so one particular case that we have is in Taiwan, and their Monday morning is like our Sunday night.
Yeah.
And so just tomorrow night, or I guess later today, I'll have to get on a conference call and kind of see what's going on and provide some debug information.
You're gonna lay down the law. That's what I'm hearing. You're gonna basically just you gotta do it this way.
No, well, this guy's Synaptics or employee. He's somebody on our team, so it's not really laying down the law. It's more like I'm propping him up. I'm hoping that he's able to have all the tools in his kit.
You're being too humble. You're being too humble. Just say so tomorrow A is gonna be handling business. Giving them that red, white, and blue big D. That's what he's giving them. I get it, man. It's all good. I mean, you're taking the humble approach. It's all good. We wink. We understand. Wink.
Giving him the red, white, and blue big D. That is hilarious. That is hilarious. That American...
Yeah. I know you got that cowboy hat in your car, just ready to go.
I actually, it's funny you mentioned that because years ago, before I visited one of my friends in Dallas, I wanted to kind of find the cowboy hat because I thought it was really cool. I was playing Red Dead Redemption at the time too, the first game, and I went to the 99-cent store, and I did find something that was really close to a cowboy hat. And on the way to the airport, I thought to myself, should I wear this? Would it be weird if I wore this? And then I just chickened out. This is too embarrassing.
Hey
I'd be
man,
the
well
only person
now's your
there.
chance, dude. Now, I know. I mean, you just show it. We know you put it on and from time to time, and you say yeehaw every now and then. You know, I get it. It's all good.
Sure, let's build that image. Let's build that image and build my reputation to be a weird, like, cowboy Indian guy.
Hell yeah, dude. Look at that.
I feel you. Oh, are you looking up stuff? Oh no, never mind. I thought you were finding a picture. But no, I think it'll go well tomorrow.
Got
Besides
it.
that,
Red, white, and blue, big D. Got it.
how about you though, man? You got some stuff cooking up? Maybe some experiments.
No, see, like I said, I was experimenting more on the audio side of things.
Right.
I have some stuff that I do have planned, dish-wise, that I want to do, but I think tomorrow I'm just going to take a day, kind of read, and kind of relax, just relax. Hey, and there's something, we'll probably touch base on this on Wednesday, but I wanted to ask you on your take. We're both American. I don't know how close your ties are to the Eastern world, where your parents are probably from. But there's like this huge thing I'm reading about where Muslims and Hindus do not get along.
Oh yeah, let's get into that.
Have you heard about that?
Oh, dude, yeah, my parents have been telling me about it for years. Ever since I was little.
Yeah, so I just read about it today, and I was like, this is very interesting. I'd like to learn a little bit more before I tackle the subject with you, because it's hard enough doing this on a day-to-day basis with you, but this is something that's actually, I think, something that we'd like to bring exposure to, because I thought there was only sort of, if I really simplify it, only one religious war going on between like Muslims and everybody, but this seems to be a little, or rather this is part of it, that I think would be wise of me to unpack and learn a little bit more about and expose.
I think so. I think, to be honest with you, you can probably educate me more from the, I guess, factual.
No. Your roots are much closer than mine. Mine are all fake news.
No, you cut yourself too short, man. I think you actually are very well read. You do the proper research, and typically behind some layers of BS, there's some BS.
Yeah, like this episode, like the later half of this episode.
No. To be honest with you, though, I appreciate every time that you challenge me, because when you challenge me, some things I don't fully know about, and so I try to think of a good question to ask you in return.
Well, no, and that's why, like, what I try to do is, I kind of know where you're going with it, and I agree with it, but I ask questions that I already kind of know the answer to keep expanding it.
Oh, that's good. That's
right?
good.
And this is just what I do, because I'm like, yeah, I agree, but fuck it, you know what? Let's take that corporate mindset for a little bit.
I appreciate that. And one thing
I do it for the fans. The ones that make it this long. Otherwise, they're gonna think I'm an asshole. But it's all good.
No, you tend to do that too. I kind of wish sometimes you didn't ease up on the rant. I feel like you do this too, like,
dude. Because I start feeling bad.
No, I can tell that, and that's why, because you're such a sweet guy, like you're such a nice person that you don't want to make me feel bad and kind of change the mood of the podcast. So it's like you pull back. But the truth is, I think if you went deeper and really like called me out on things fully, like fucking British Parliament style, like completely expose me to be the buffoon that I am, to be the fraud that I am, then I think it would be really compelling. Like it'd be really entertaining to different people.
Well, dude.
Wow.
All right, I'll keep pushing next time, and until we both just collapse and be like, yeah, I was fucking with you, my bad. And then you'd be like, I don't know what I was saying.
I don't do this anymore. I like my intro. It was good.
Then tune in next week. Just us crying.
No. I think the cadence we have, the banter that we have, is already pretty solid, and I think we'll keep pushing ourselves a little bit. We'll find out where our buttons are for sure, but
I think we know already.
I think we do know. I guess before we officially close this one, do you think we should save the clip for Wednesday? What do you think?
We already shared the clip.
Which clip are you referring to?
Oh, you're talking. Yeah, let's save your stuff. I thought you were talking about the music. Yeah, let's save that for Wednesday. Let's save that for Wednesday. Or possibly even next week. This time we'll figure it out. Play it by ear. Quarantine life. Sure. Who knows? We might have a 3.75 or some shit like that. We'll just start coming up with random ass numbers.
Definitely. Well, I guess this would be the best time to close, and I'm gonna let you do the sign off on this one.
Ooh, hold on. I gotta load up my groove music again, dude. Hold up.
There you go.
All right.
You know what's coming.
Oh shit. Wait, I didn't
little
do this
special
right.
surprise.
I gotta set this stuff up.
Yeah, man.
correctly,
Hey, shout out to Groove Music, by the way. They've
I'm,
been
I'm on VLC. I'm on VLC.
Oh,
Download
oh,
VLC,
well.
everybody. VLC's wonderful.
There you go.
All right, here we go. Let's turn this up. Southern California, yeah.
Born and raised our DNA. Laugh and cry to what we say. We hit you with that wordplay.
4053.
What episode are we on?
think
D, they feeling
375.
like baby zombies, all dressed in Abercrombie.
SoCal DNA coming in live. 8 o'clock on a Wednesday night. COVID got you sitting inside. Why not sip one and free your mind?
Cheap thrills, popping pills, stack cash, spend it fast.
Listen to all of those lies as Arjun act like he's surprised.
And the quote that spend it
You know what that? It's like you know, you read those SAT questions and it's like, hey, one of these sentences does not belong with the rest. and it's like Arjun just comes out of nowhere and says, stat cash, spend it fast? What? Cheap thrills, popping pills? What? And then Don just goes back to, okay, yeah, you know, just watch Don say all these lies, and Arjun acts like he's surprised. Wait a second, what did Arjun just say right there? There's a lot of content to unpack right there. Like, what the hell is that?
Oh shit. Tune in next week, guys. Catch you later on the flippity flip.
Peace.